Last time on You Didn't See Nothing.
The Leonard Clark thing, it wasn't a big issue because it happened so many times. This time it just got publicity.
While Leonard came out of his coma,
things aren't perfect for Leonard Clark, but doctors say he's getting better.
The main attacker's parents were going on a media tour.
What type of racial attitude's been generated in the household?
We raise our children to believe that everyone is an equal.
He's respectful, he's kind. What they're saying about him, that's not Frank.
And this racial bridge building stuff was going a bridge too far.
And there was an article with Frank Caruso Jr. with Reverend Martin's daughter, talking about how they were friends, and this shit was bizarre, man.
When the feds finally came to pick me up, it had been like 10 years since the Leonard Clark story took place. I'll never forget it. Me and my daughter was leaving the crib. We was walking to my car, which was parked in the back of my apartment. My daughter, she was 5. I was about to drop her off at school. She was in kindergarten. It was probably like 7 in the morning. So we're walking to the car, and then I hear, Mr. Lacour, Mr. Lacour. I'm like, what the fuck? I look up, and it's like 15 white guys, mostly white guys, ATF, DEA, the blue and yellow jackets, and I know what it is, and it's like a fucking worst nightmare come true. Like, shit, I always imagined that day. I did. Of course, I always prayed it wouldn't come, but it was, I knew what line of work I was in. I understood the job description. It's just like, damn, for this day to finally come, and this felt like the most inopportune moment. I'm taking my daughter to school. I don't want her to see this shit. The only thing I was happy about is I didn't have no dope on me. They wanted me to go downtown with them, hear some tapes, and answer some questions. I told them I'd go with them, but there was no way I was letting them take my daughter. Like, they had to let me call my father. He's blocks away. He can pick her up. I can't let her go with you. Shit's not gonna end well like that. They obliged. We went upstairs. I called my old man. I'm like, Pops, the jig is up, man. Feds are here. He's like, oh, shit. He was just disappointed. He wasn't shocked or surprised. He knew I'd been selling weed forever, and he knew I'd been selling it at a level where the feds was not beyond the realm of possibility. But he didn't know I'd been selling heroin. So Pop showed up, Kendi went with him, and I went downtown with the feds. Once we got downtown and they played these tapes, I realized they were here for the heroin. And they immediately tried to press me to tell. They wanted me to become an informant. Started trying to sell me on it, about how I could even not only get out of doing this 20 to life I'm facing, but could fuck around and create a career of telling on people in the streets. I was dumbfounded. Like, wow, do y'all think I'm that guy that you can just get to tell in a matter of minutes, turn me into a snitch? That was crazy to me. In the back of my head, half of me wants to cuss them out, play the tough role, but I just stuck to what I knew, which is I need to talk to a lawyer. And they like, well, your lawyer's going to tell you to do the same thing. All right, well, then let him do that. I need to talk to a lawyer. Well, who's your lawyer? My lawyer's Lou Myers. Oh, we know him. He's going to tell you to work with us. All right, well, I need to talk to him. Just don't say nothing and ask for a lawyer. It's just like, don't go to Bridgeport. I can't tell you the first place I heard it. It was just common knowledge. It was like, everybody knows that you ask for a lawyer. You don't tell police shit. I knew it from the streets. I knew it before I'd ever committed a crime, actually, just listening to hustlers. I also knew it from watching L.A. Law in the 80s and mob movies and gangster flicks. And apparently, Frankie's friends weren't into those same movies because they told everything they knew at the first sight of police. I'm Yohance Lacour. 25 years ago in Chicago, a little boy was beaten into a coma just for being black. Almost overnight, The news stories turn to racial reconciliation and forgiveness. This is a podcast about how that happened and how it changed my life. This is You Didn't See Nothing. In this episode, I want to tell you about the witnesses. I want to talk about what they said to police, what they didn't say, and what they never had the chance to say.
You think he was killed to keep him from testifying?
In my heart, I believe that, yeah.
We requested the files for this case from the Cook County Clerk's office. Now, ain't nobody looked at this stuff for like 15, 20 years, but eventually they found them for us.
Supplemental record from the circuit court. It follows some motions to obtain addresses of witnesses.
They had the files brought downtown to an office building close to City Hall. Me and my producer, Sarah, we sat in a cubicle and dug through these big blue plastic bins full of files.
This filed on my birthday.
9/28. You a Leo?
Libra.
And we sat here for hours, only left to eat. And that was for days, skimming through each of those boxes. And it was all firsthand shit. It was Polaroids of the attackers, notes from police officers and doctors and probation officers. Everything that was relevant to the trial was there.
Wow. Yeah, this is just...
Yeah.
Wow.
It's endless.
I've always understood what went down, but in terms of a play-by-play detailed picture of exactly what happened beginning to end, reading these statements that were given to police, this is the first time I've been able to see that. March 21st, 1997. It's a Friday night. Frankie Caruso is driving through Bridgeport in his Jeep Cherokee. In the passenger seat of the Jeep is his buddy Tommy Simpson. He looks like a white rapper from the 90s, like Marky Mark or something. Tommy's also from Bridgeport. He and Frankie have known each other their whole lives. They're headed to a party in the suburbs when they spot another friend, Michael Cutler. Cutler's a high school football star, built like a bull. Got that ambiguous look, like, is he Greek, is he Latino, maybe mixed? So Frankie and Tommy pull over, Cutler slides into the back seat of the Jeep, and they're off. Frankie keeps driving, and soon he spots Leonard and Cleveland. Now remember, this is all shit I'm getting straight from the statements that Frankie's friends gave police. When Frankie spots the two black boys, he decides he wants to beat them up. His buddy's like, nah, they just kids. Frankie calls Tommy and Cutler pussies and hops out of the Jeep. As soon as he hits the block, Frankie's joined by a few friends from the neighborhood, guys who happen to be walking by.
This is Sucks 35th.
So last summer, we went to the spot where it all went down. It's right in front of Sox Park. If you look due north, you can see the Sears Tower. A bunch of tailgaters barbecuing, throwing back beers, sitting around making hot dogs, talking shit, getting pumped up for this game. Everyday folk, you can see the dirt under their nails. It's Bridgeport. You look across the expressway and the projects where Leonard lived are all gone. They've all been demolished. On the corner, you can see a 3-story red brick building. And on the ground floor of that building is an Irish bar right at the corner of 33rd and Princeton. Now that's where one of the most important witnesses to Leonard's attack was standing, right outside that bar. His name is Jeff Gordon. He ain't no Frankie Caruso or any of his high school buddies. He just happened to live down the block. He'd only been living in Bridgeport for a little over 2 years. Gordon was a white guy, late 30s. He worked in computers. back when everybody was still using AOL. So it's around 8 p.m. The sun's going down. Jeff Gordon leaves his apartment for the train station when he sees Leonard running from a bunch of white guys. They chase Leonard right in front of that bar. Now, there were other guys on the street too, but Gordon wasn't your average Bridgeport resident. When he sees Leonard running from these white guys, Gordon pulls out his cell phone and says he's calling the police. Leonard is face down on the pavement, getting kicked. Gordon shouts, "Leave him alone. Stop it." He sees one of the guys look up and then stomp Leonard's head one final time. Guy says this black kid was breaking windows in the neighborhood and takes off. An ambulance arrives, a fire truck, police. Now there's a crowd in front of the bar. Jeff Gordon, dude who called police, he hears somebody say it was a Mexican guy did it. No, it wasn't, Gordon tells him. And he starts to correct him. And then a man shouts something that stops him cold. "You didn't see nothing." We tried to get in touch with Jeff Gordon. Guy probably saved Leonard's life. We sent him letters, we left messages, but we never heard back. I imagine he's done with this part of his life. But it seems like back then, Jeff Gordon was scared. And I say that based on the fact that these details in the clerk's files are incredible. I can see a filing from the state's attorney's office that says they paid to move Jeff Gordon out of Bridgeport. They reimbursed him $1,085 for his moving expenses. If you ask me, dude wanted to get the fuck out of there. I can also see in the file who police picked up for questioning. The first person was Tommy Simpson, the Marky Mark looking dude who was in the Jeep with Frankie. I can see what police fed him. Pancakes and sausage from McDonald's. Seems like all this clown needed was a Ronald McDonald breakfast platter to turn on his buddy. Cause Tommy is singing like a bird, telling him everything he knows about the attack. He says that after it all went down, when they're back in the Jeep, Frankie was bragging about beating Leonard. He said it was hard to hear though, cause Frankie was playing rap music. And in his statement, Tommy tells police that's an important detail. Proof that Frankie doesn't hate black people. He just hates niggers. He literally says, Frankie doesn't hate black people, just niggers. How's that for a window into these boys' heads? Now, they read Tommy's entire statement back to him and gave him a chance to change anything he wanted. And in the end, he signed his name on every single page. But by the time trial rolled around, Tommy couldn't remember anything. I suspect that after talking to police, Tommy Simpson knew if he ain't make stuff right, yeah, he facing something far worse than jail time. When I look back on this story, one of my biggest challenges is reconciling my own different points of view. On one hand, I'm a black man who loves black people, so I'm glad Frankie's friends told on him. At the same time, I'm a black man who spent a lot of time in these streets and in prison. And a rat is a fucking rat. In 2008, when the feds brought me in, one of the agents was super friendly acting. The other was cold, quiet, mean mugging the shit out of me. The whole time they just playing good cop, bad cop. Good cop asked me if I'm hungry. Said he grabbed me some Subway. Says, you're not like the other guys on your case. Nah, they all have a bunch of tattoos. They've been in and out of prison. But he says the feds watch me visit bookstores and take my daughter to school. It's kind of like what Tommy Simpson was talking about. Good Cop was telling me, you're black people. You take your child to school, you read, you're smart, you wear glasses. These other guys on your case, they've got gun cases in their file and records. Oh, they're niggers. He was telling me basically I could save myself from a nigger's fate. So when they get back with my sandwich, I was asleep. Bad cop. Oh, the guilty guys always fall asleep. In my head, I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever, dude. Then Good Cop chimes in, tells me why I should start giving them names. Says I can give them anybody, anything that'll lead to arrest. Started telling me how the more people I could give them, the less time I'd do. I tell people all the time, the interrogation room has always been the true test of anybody's gangster. Dudes be cold killers on the street, 5-star hustlers. But as soon as they get in that little room with those agents, all that street shit goes out the window. They were so confident I was gonna fold. And they was 38 hot when they found out I wasn't cooperating. Downtown at the clerk's office, there's another statement to police from another one of Frankie's friends, Richie DeSantis. Richie was a Bridgeport guy too, same Catholic high school. Now, did Richie DeSantis help attack Leonard, or was he just a witness? We know that he was close enough to the attack to see it all. We also know that, according to the police statement, he left the scene with Caruso. Now, where I'm from, having been at the attack, and then you leave with the attackers, oh, that makes you a part of the attack. You at least getting hit with an accessory. Richie was never charged with attacking Leonard, but his statements were going to be critical to putting others away. You can see what police fed Richie, too.
Come on, man.
A sausage McMuffin with a hash brown and orange juice.
This is just amazing.
Richie was going to have to testify against Lil Frankie in court and repeat all this shit. How he watched his friend hit the little black boy. How Leonard's body bounced when it was hit. How Leonard screamed. But right before the trial...
Where is Richard DeSantis?
Richie went missing.
Chicago police search for a missing witness in the Leonard Clark beating case.
Richie and his family had lived in Chicago for their whole lives. But soon after the attack, they moved to Scottsdale, Arizona. Then, all of a sudden, nobody, not even his family, can find Richie. Or so they say.
Richard DeSantis has disappeared, and a federal manhunt is yet to find him.
When I heard Richie DeSantis had disappeared, I figured one of two things happened. Either he was gonna testify and somebody got rid of him, or someone was hiding him out so that he wouldn't testify. Here's NPR on that.
There are persistent rumors that both the DeSantis and Caruso families have links to organized crime. The Caruso family denies the allegations, but many court watchers speculate that mob ties could have something to do with DeSantis' disappearance.
It made me realize how real this shit was. Police were searching all across the country. Arizona, Nevada, Florida. A warrant was issued for Richie's arrest on charges that he was obstructing justice. The trial had to be delayed. Then it had to be delayed again. Still, Richie never showed up. And eventually it got to the point they couldn't keep delaying, and the trial went on without him. And it wasn't until a few weeks after the trial ended, on a Friday in November 98, Richie DeSantis finally reappeared. Only now he changed his whole story. The TV show Dateline interviewed him in Cook County Jail.
All I did was sign the statement. I mean, I was there for 36 hours. I mean, I haven't slept in about 2 days.
Richie now claimed that police forced him to talk in his original interrogation.
You know, they're telling me, they're threatening me with murder, attempted murder, and When they came with a paper and said, sign this, we'll let you go, I just signed it and they let me go.
He also told Dateline he didn't realize anybody was looking for him. Like he just happened to up and move halfway across the country. Here's why I believe his original statement to police. I know how police try to get people to talk. My friend Keno, they put a 12 gauge to his head, pulled the trigger, beat the shit out of him. He still didn't say nothing. I know police lie, but I can accept these statements from Tommy Simpson and Richie DeSantis as facts because Chicago cops ain't lying on Bridgeport boys. And when the Bridgeport boys' stories all line up with each other, come on, man.
Most people remember Old Dirty Bastard as the stage-crashing secret weapon of Wu-Tang Clan. A raw showman with a wild sense of humor who left a lot of people confused, especially after his death. But I want to tell you the full story of ODB, a man of many names, a god in hip-hop, and the ruler of his own destiny. I'm Khalik Allah. From USG Audio, Novel, and Talkhouse, it's ODB, A Son Unique. Available now wherever you get your podcast.
The state's case against Frankie Caruso was getting weak, but there was one last friend whose testimony there was no getting around. The football player from the Jeep, Michael Cutler. Cutler heard Frankie call Leonard and Cleveland niggas, but Cutler refused to beat him up. He told police what he saw, and he was gonna testify at trial. But then
Michael Cutler was killed in what police say was a holdup.
Cutler was with a girlfriend on the west side of Chicago around midnight. He was in the car when some guys approached, shoot him in the chest, and kill him. The police claimed it was about money, but I never believed that, and I'm not the only one.
It seems so obvious.
Abden Palish was a reporter for the Sun-Times.
A random robbery that so conveniently takes out the key witness 6 weeks before trial.
Cutler's mom said the same thing when she appeared on Dateline.
You think he was killed to keep him from testifying?
In my heart, I believe that, yeah.
The prosecutors in Frankie's case felt the same way.
I think what happened to Mr. Cutler kind of redefines the term coincidence.
I just, to this day, find it hard to believe that that's just a coincidence. That one of our key witnesses just happens to be killed in a robbery while this case is pending before trial. And we just had to accept the fact that he wasn't going to be a witness. But to this day, I don't believe that that was just a coincidence.
Dan Lacour was the judge in Frankie's case, and even he said it.
I felt, that he was hit.
My producer Dana talked to Cutler's older brother James. James didn't want to be recorded because he and his family don't trust the media. He wanted to talk about his brother as a person. James said Michael's favorite artist was Tupac, said he'd been a gifted athlete, baseball, wrestling, football. His coaches admired him, said he had determination and didn't back down. In high school, he was a football star. He won a scholarship to play at college in Kentucky. He wanted to go pro. But Michael wasn't just popular on the field. He was the life of the party, someone who was loved by all. Michael was 18 years old when he was killed, home only a week from his freshman year at college. I remembered most of that, but what I didn't know until we started reinvestigating this case, and what fucked me up the most, was something I read in one of Abden Palish's newspaper articles. Michael Cutler was half black. Right? I can only imagine the inner turmoil he must have felt as a mixed kid in Bridgeport, running around with these racist-ass white boys. Now, it's unclear to me how much Cutler talked about his blackness. Was he hiding it? Or did Frankie Caruso and the Bridgeport crew know? Cutler didn't necessarily look black. Well, once you know, you can kind of see it. But he definitely could have passed for white. When Cutler was killed, he was visiting a black girl, west side of Chicago. He met her online. And that seemed fishy as hell to me, especially back then, because I'm not knowing he's half black. And you don't get white boys from Bridgeport dating black girls from the west side of Chicago. Chicago's segregated as fuck. It just didn't make no sense. Palace wrote about Cutler's murder in the newspaper.
You know, I went to the police district where it was happening, and they were so disinterested. They were literally watching a Cubs game. They were watching, Cubs were beating the Reds. And as I'm trying to ask them, hey, aren't you going to go ask some more questions? They're literally waving me away. No, it's a robbery. It's a robbery. Not even taking their eyes off the screen.
To me, this is the part that should raise the most eyebrows. Everybody felt like this was a hit. His mother, the prosecutors, even the judge. And the police don't even want to consider that Cutler's murder was connected to Caruso?
They have never even been interviewed by police. So I thought it was an important story worth doing. We ran the story, and it was a front page Sunday story, which I thought would reignite the whole discussion and get everything going again. And nothing. Crickets. I called the police station the next morning and said, hey, are you getting any calls? And they were so annoyed, enraged that I had done this story, even suggesting that they hadn't done their best. There's not. They like yelled at me and slammed the phone down. The Tribune didn't do a damn thing. None of the TV stations picked up on it. Nothing. And to this day, the murder remains unsolved.
Whoever shot Cutler took his class ring off his finger. The headline in Palash's Sun-Times article asked the question, armed robbery or mob hit? When I tell you I'm working with a team of mean investigators, I'm not bullshitting. My producer, Dana, she spoke to a former law enforcement official who didn't want to be named, but I can tell you, they said they never had enough evidence to charge anyone, but said that the idea that Cutler died in a random robbery is not plausible. That people who believe Michael Cutler's murder was a hit wouldn't be wrong. But law enforcement never had enough to prosecute. Back in '98, when Cutler was murdered, I had questions. This girl he was visiting, was she in on it? Had he been catfished? Had he been followed? Had somebody from Bridgeport set him up? As we're working on this podcast, my team and I did a Freedom of Information Act request. We asked the Chicago police for their file on this case, and there were a couple interesting leads. Witnesses saw 3 black dudes running from the scene of Cutler's murder. One of the witnesses could identify them all by name. There were even a couple cats who were arrested with a 9mm in their car just a short drive away. I thought maybe we'd dig deep into Cutler's murder, and I had a conversation with my colleague, a journalist I respect and admire, who said that if I was able to uncover who killed Cutler, I had a responsibility to say who it was. That put me in a tough spot, because if it was a hit, they were smart enough to make it somebody who fit in. More than likely, it was a black man who pulled the trigger. And I'm not going to take a brother off the streets for having been a pawn for white folks. On the other hand, does that mean whoever solicited the hit, if it was a hit, should get a free pass? I still feel conflicted about it to this day. There's a fine line between being a journalist and being a snitch. So there you have it. One witness goes back on everything he originally said to police. Another witness falls off the face of the earth and disappears completely. And a third witness is murdered. Next episode, Frankie goes to trial and Caruso's black allies go into overdrive.
And then there were guys who would walk up to me and said, man, you know, you standing here right now, I could blow your head off. And would nobody give a fuck? Leave Herbert Martin alone. This is how much this Leonard Clark thing had the black community in turmoil.
You Didn't See Nothing is a production of the Invisible Institute and USG Audio. This podcast is written and reported by me, Yohance Lacour, with Bill Healy, Dana Brozost-Kelleher, Erisa Apantaku, and Sarah Geis. Sound design, mixing, and music supervision by Steven Jackson and Phil Dmochowski at the Audio Non-Visual Company. Original music by Taka Yasuzawa. Executive produced by Alison Flowers and Jamie Kalven for the Invisible Institute and Josh Bloch for USG Audio. Production support by Jennifer Sears. Fact-checking by Angely Mercado. Our key art is by Kenneth L. Copeland Jr. Special thanks to James Cutler, Steve Bogira, and Elizabeth Smith in the Cook County Clerk's Office. Archival audio used in this episode is from WMAQ, Fox Chicago, Dateline, and WBEZ. For more information, go to our show notes or visit our website, usgaudio.com.